All right, good afternoon, eighth graders. Hope you had a fantastic Wednesday. We're going to go ahead and spend a couple minutes and talk about solving and graphing simple inequalities. Today is October 30th, one day before Halloween. For some of you, this might be mischief night. Hopefully not, though. And if you look at the bottom, we're going to label this page 19 for your notes. All right, so let's go ahead back up to the top and see we have some objectives so that by the end of the lesson you'll be able to one, graph an inequality on a number line, and then you'll be able to solve and graph simple inequalities where only one step is required. And the reason they're called inequalities is the answers to these equations are not equal to these numbers. The solutions are either greater than or less than, or greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. All right, so if we were to graph an inequality, like example 1 here, where we're told the value of g is greater than 5, what we would do first is we would graph 0 and the solution in the inequality. So for example, we're going to go ahead and create a number line here, and we're going to put in 0 and then the solution of 5. Boom, step 1, done. Next step, above the number, so in this case 5, draw a shaded in circle if the symbol is greater than or equal or less than or equal. We'll draw a non-shaded in circle if the symbol is greater than or less than. In this case, the sign is greater than, so we're going to draw a non-shaded circle above the 5. Step 2, done. And then we have to look, step 3, and read what the inequality says in terms of the variable, and then draw a line with an arrow in the same direction, starting at the circle drawn in step 2. So we drew the empty circle above the 5, and we're told that g is greater than 5. So we're going to draw an arrow going to the right, showing that all possible solutions are greater than 5. All right, let's go ahead and do example number 2, which says that h is less than or equal to -3. Or you could read it as -3 is greater than or equal to h. So first step is we have to draw our number line, and we're going to put in the number 0 and the solution of -3. And then the second step is we have to draw in a shaded circle above the -3 because the sign here is greater than or equal, so that should be filled in. All right. And then we're told that all values of h are less than or equal to -3, which means we have to draw the arrow going to the left, showing all the values being less than -3. All right, go ahead and do example number 3 on your own, and we'll check in with you tomorrow, see how you did with that. All right, flipping over to the back, now we're going to do where you have to actually solve the inequality before you graph it. And we're going to say that solving inequalities is the same as solving equations. We're going to solve inequalities and equations by isolating the variable. Get that variable alone and by itself. And then once you do that, you want to identify what is with the variable and then move that on both sides of the inequality sign. All right, so before we do any examples, we're going to need to remember how we undo multiplication. How do we undo division, addition, subtraction? And we're going to figure that out. So what reverses multiplication? Everybody? Division, yeah. And what reverses division? Multiplication, yeah. And what reverses addition? Yep, you guessed it, subtraction, yeah. And what reverses subtraction? Addition. Hopefully you guys remember that from last year. All right, so important, dun, dun, dun. if you need to multiply or divide by a negative number, then you have to flip the inequality sign. Alright, so we'll see if any examples deal with that down below. Alright, so example 1, we have t minus 3 is less than or equal to 22. So we're going to treat this just like an equation where we have to isolate the variable. Right now, 3 is being subtracted from it, so we're going to do the opposite of subtraction and add 3 to each side. So those end up canceling out, and you're left with t is less than or equal to 25. And then you want to go ahead and set up our number line with 0 and 25. We're going to put a circle above 25 and we're going to shade it because the sign is less than or equal to. So that means we're going to shade it. And all values of t are less than 25, so we're going to draw an arrow going to the left. All right, example 2. So n, we need to get n by itself. Right now it's being multiplied by negative 6. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide each side by negative 6. Here is where that important part comes into play. We had to divide each side by negative 6, which means that we're going to flip the sign, and then it'll end up being n is less than or equal to negative 3. We go ahead and set up our number line, put 0 down, negative 3. The circle goes above negative 3. We're going to shade in the circle because of the sign is less than or equal. And then we're going to draw an arrow going to the left because all values of n are less than or equal to negative 3. All right, go ahead and do examples 3 and 4 on your own, and be ready to discuss that with your pod buddies when you come in tomorrow. And we'll have another great class. All right, have a good night. Bye.